Well, welcome everyone. Thanks for being here. Good morning. I'm a little loud talker, so I don't know if the volume is too much for you guys at this hour. But I got a lot of content to cover, so I'm going to go a little quickly. Come on in, welcome. Again, I'm going to go a little quickly this morning, but if you guys just heard those folks just a minute ago walk in and said, we have a reverse mortgage and we love it, I couldn't have asked that. I couldn't have planted them there literally at that moment. So with all that being said, and Armand, thank you for that introduction. My name is Gabe Bodner, and I'm happy to be here today to talk to you all about retirement mortgage strategies. You see, the words reverse mortgage have had a very negative connotation associated with them. I'm not here to say that that's incorrect historically speaking. They have had a bad reputation. I get it. I agree with that. In the last 5, 6, 7 years, however, there's been a ton of change in the programs that have made them a better, safer program. And quite candidly, that's when I got into reverse mortgages myself. As Armand said, I've been originating mortgages now for almost 20 years, but it hasn't been except in the last 5 years that I've gotten into reverse mortgages as the regulations have changed and again, made it a better, safer program. I'm extremely passionate and love what I do. And I'm here to tell you that, again, the retirement mortgage strategies are not what they used to be. We're going to go through a lot of content today, but I start this by asking the question, why wouldn't you get a reverse mortgage? Right? Why wouldn't you? Dr. Wade Pfau is a professor of retirement income at the American College. And based on all of the math and all of the financial studies that he has done in the books that he has written, he actually has proven mathematically that if you do a reverse mortgage earlier in retirement, you will actually increase your probability of financial success in retirement. And you may even pay less in income taxes. And you may even leave more to your heirs. Mathematically, we've proven that over and over and over again. The problem, in my opinion, is the way the program has been marketed and advertised is poor. Nothing against Magnum PI, i.e. Tom Selleck, right? And the late night commercials. He's a handsome guy and gets paid about $1 million a month to do what he does. But the idea being that I think the program has been marketed poorly. Again, mathematically, it makes the most financial sense to do a reverse mortgage. The problem is emotionally, people are very attached to this thing that we call home equity. Okay. So as we look at why this is becoming such a hot topic right now and why more and more people are talking about it, it's because there's 10,000 people a day turning 62 years old in our country. That's 300,000 people a month are aging into what we call retirement in our country. Okay. In addition to that, there's fewer pensions and defined benefit plans, right? The IBMs, the GMs, the HPs of the world are not paying people a pension once they retire. The pension plan programs have effectively been replaced with what we call a 401k program. And the 401k program, as we know, you have to put money into it to get money out of it. And not everybody can afford to put money into it. So the way retirement is done in our country is different than the way it used to be. We have the lowest return on investment in decades in our country. You see, when our parents and our grandparents put money into a CD, because CD rates were what? 12, 15%? They could live off of that return. How much do you get on your checking, savings CDs today on your own money? 0%. If you're lucky, 1%. Right? 0.00001. That's right. Not a great return. Not something that you can sustain and live off of. Right? 76% of folks plan to delay retirement today. Not because they love what they do, because they can't afford to retire. Again, I'm painting not such a rosy picture right now, right? Inflation's on the rise. The cost of everything is more expensive today. The cost of everything will be more expensive tomorrow and in a year and 3 years from now, right? That Starbucks drink and coffee that we all love so much, or Pete's that it's not a quarter anymore. I hate to say it. It's not even $1 anymore, right? And that cup of coffee is going to cost $5 here very, very soon. And that 0.0001% return on your investment isn't going to cut it. Less than 7% of folks in our country have long-term care insurance, and more than 70% of folks are going to need it. Long-term care is very expensive. I spoke to a client the other day who said she spends $10,000 a month on in-home care. $10,000 a month for herself on in-home care. It's a lot of money. And most people don't have the income coming in or the assets on hand to cover that, right? And we're living longer. No surprise, we are living longer, right? The average person is going to live 10 to 15 years longer today than 20 years ago. And it's only going to continue. Statistically speaking, I've heard that somebody is going to live to be 120 years old, and that person is alive today. It's going to live to 120. I say that to groups of people and they say, not me, I don't want to live that long, right? I don't either at this point, but medical science and research may allow for a better, healthier quality of life. I don't know, at some point. This is the scariest thing to me, that if all baby boomers retire at age 62, 84% of them would be in jeopardy of running out of money before they die. 84%. And if all baby boomers delay retirement to 66, half would still be in jeopardy of running out of money before they die. So, with all that being said, home equity. Who here owns a home? Raise your hand, please. Almost everybody, if not everybody here, owns a home. Okay. And if you're in Boulder County, congratulations. You've done very, very well, right? My family and I live in Boulder. We're very fortunate. We've done very well. Across the country, since the peak of the market in 2007, not the bottom of the market after the crash, but the peak of the market in 2007, there's been a 50% appreciation in home value. 50%. Okay. That is astounding considering we're getting 0.00001% on your CDs and checking accounts and money market funds. This has been the best asset class for appreciation and wealth building in our country, truly. Believe it or not, there's $9 trillion of senior home equity in our country today. $9 trillion. That's $2 trillion greater than all the 401k money combined in our country. Now, we talked about the fact that, the 401k plan and programs have replaced the old school kind of pensions, right? Okay. Now, let me ask someone, anybody, tell me this. Do you put money into a 401k plan all your working life with the expectation of not touching it and leaving it for your children and your grandchildren someday? Raise your hand if you say yes to that question. Interesting. Not one person here puts money into their 401k with the expectation of leaving it to their kids. No kids. No kids. Well, there you go. Kids, sisters, siblings, anybody. But the idea, now, let me ask this question. Who here, raise your hand honestly, if you put money into your home and you plan to leave it to your kids if you have children or your heirs? Raise your hand, be honest. A few of you. Okay, thank you for being honest. That's fair. Why? I mean, and don't get me wrong. One of my children's right here. One of my kids, Ethan, who's helping today. I love him to death and I plan to leave him something, but hopefully, God willing, if I live to be 90 years old or 100, he's going to be worried about his own retirement. He's not going to need my house. He's not going to want my house. You see, 99% of people in our country today want to leave their home to their children if they have children. And 99% of children don't want their parents' house. They want the money, right? So leave them the 401k. Don't leave them the house. But yet we want to leave them the house and not leave them the money. Yes, ma'am, you have a question.
Well, a lot of them are seniors are selling their homes to pay for their care.
To pay for their care. So yes, absolutely. The question or the statement was, you know, a lot of people today are having to sell their homes, I believe is what you said, in order to pay for their care. We're going to talk about that here in just a moment, about how and why, and again, how a home equity conversion mortgage or a reverse mortgage can help to potentially solve that. Okay. And that's a great point. A lot of people are choosing to sell their homes to actually care for themselves and utilize that home equity in a different way. Right. But again, just what I'm getting at right here in the slide is we have all this wealth we've put into the market with the expectation we're going to use it someday. Right. But yet we put money into our homes with the expectation we're going to leave it to our kids. And there's a disconnect. So with that, I'm trying to create here, and what I do every day in talking with clients is to create a paradigm shift. That's a shift in the way of thinking. Okay. As an example, okay, the old days, a reverse mortgage was used as a loan of last resort. I'm running out of money, but I have my home. I'm going to leverage my home or sell my home in order to use the equity because I'm running out of money, right? A loan of last resort. Today, again, based on research from folks like Dr. Wade Pfau and Barry Sachs, we've shown mathematically through algorithms and through, again, systematizing, utilizing a reverse mortgage in an orchestrated strategy, you can actually increase cash flow and potentially pay less in taxes, and it's better utilized earlier in retirement. It's a change in thinking, okay? With that, how do you get directions today? Does anybody still use this? Does anybody know what this is? What is it? Can't see it? A map book? Yeah. Does anybody still use this today? You do. You don't have kids, so you still use this apparently. And that's okay. It still works, by the way. A map book still works. Now, I grew up in Southern California with the Thomas Guide. My dad had one of these, right, in the county that we lived, Los Angeles County. But if we crossed over to San Bernardino County, guess what? You had to pull out a different map book because you couldn't use the same map book. It ran out. And God forbid you take a road trip, you had to go to AAA to go get maps from AAA to go figure out how you're going to get there. And guess what? It still works, but it's not efficient. You see, most of us today use this thing to get directions. It's in the palm of our hand. And if you change from one county to another county or one state to another state, you want to go on a road trip, it's all there and it's all current. And it even tells you about traffic. This map book still works. It's just not efficient anymore, right? This strategy is much more efficient in the palm of our hand. That's the point that I'm trying to make, is a retirement mortgage, a home equity conversion mortgage is a more efficient strategy to live a better quality of life in retirement and financially care for yourself. So what is a retirement mortgage anyway? This is what I say a retirement mortgage is in my own words, but it's a payment optional mortgage. Pay when you want, if you want, or never make a payment at all. Now, let me ask you a question. If you have at least 50% equity in your home, which means if you have a $600,000 home and you have a $300,000 mortgage or less, you have 50% equity in that example. Let's say you turn 62 years old and on your 62nd birthday, you get a letter in the mail from your mortgage company that says, happy birthday and congratulations. Because you have enough equity and because you're old enough to qualify, you no longer have to make a mortgage payment. Congratulations. Who would say thank you and raise their hand and not make a mortgage payment again? Couple of you. I mean, you've already done it, right? But why wouldn't you? Somebody tell me why you wouldn't make a mortgage payment if your lender told you you didn't have to?
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
too good to be true.
it's too good to be true. I've told you 99% of what you need to know, honestly, so far. Interest keeps accruing? Okay. Rate of return, interest, that's the concern. I can tell you right now, the interest rates on these mortgages are under 2.5%. You can get a fixed, you can get variable, and I can talk about both, but we'll get there. But interest rates, possible concern, my opinion, if you're making an average of 7 to 8% on your portfolio, because guess what? The S&P 500 average historically has been 8%. And if you're getting an 8% return on your IRA, on your 401k, on your stock, on your bond account, why wouldn't you keep that money in the market and be accruing interest at 2.5%, 3.5%? You're winning mathematically all day long. Mathematically, you're ahead of the game. Okay. So again, make a payment if you want, when you want. You always are responsible and have to continue to pay taxes and insurance, property taxes, home insurance. But guess what? That's the same no matter what. If you don't have a mortgage, you still have to pay property taxes, don't you? If you have a regular mortgage, you still have to pay taxes and insurance. Same thing, no change there. Okay. Interest is deferred until it's paid back. Absolutely the case. Okay. That's all. Interest is deferred at, again, today's rates, 2.5%, 3%. Okay. Pretty darn cheap money, in my opinion. And guess what? All that home equity, if you were to utilize some of it, you do not have to pay income taxes on that money. And we all talked about putting money into a 401k plan, right? Guess what? Do you have to pay taxes when you pull that money out? Absolutely. Because there's a term out there or a word, it's called theirs. Theirs, they're always going to get theirs. And it's called the IRS. But when you pull money out of a 401k or an IRA or a stock account or a bond account, they will get theirs at some point. Matter of fact, they make you take the money out at some point. It's called required minimum distributions because they need to get the taxes from you at some point. With a reverse mortgage, the equity is tax-free as you utilize it. And best of all, it's what we call a non-recourse mortgage. You can never owe more on the home than the home is worth. Even if the home value goes down, even if you use all the equity someday, even if you live to be 120 years old, you can never owe more on the home than the home is worth, which is what is called a non-recourse mortgage. Even if you have $1 million of assets under management in your portfolio and you owe more on your house than it's worth and you pass away, your heirs can inherit the assets under management and no liability on the house. Yes, ma'am. Great point. The comment was that's because it's an FHA mortgage and it's insured. That's correct. Under these reverse mortgages, 95% of them are under FHA. We do have what we call jumbo or proprietary reverse mortgages that are not insured by FHA. They are still non-recourse mortgages though. But to your comment, 95% of these are government insured by FHA, which makes them non-recourse, and you cannot inherit or pass on a liability to your heirs. So who can qualify? You got to be at least 62 years old to qualify. Some of you may not qualify yet. I don't qualify yet, but I will tell you, on my 62nd birthday, I will get a reverse mortgage, even if I don't need it. You do keep title to your house. The number one misconception with these is the bank now owns the house. It's incorrect. You still keep title to your house. I just wrote an article on this yesterday. Okay. You keep title, you own the house, you can sell the house at any time. You can pass the home on to your heirs. Okay. Nothing changes, just like a traditional mortgage. Okay. You still keep title to the house. The only real requirement that is above and beyond a traditional mortgage is you have to continue to occupy this as your primary residence. You have to continue to live there.
What percentage of the year?
The question is, what percentage of the year? That's an interesting question because it just states in the regulations, it has to be your primary residence. Okay. Some people have inferred that means 181 days per year, 6 months plus a day. That's what some people have defined as principal residence or primary residence, which means you can buy a second home, you can travel. That's allowed, not a problem with a reverse mortgage. It has to be your primary residence. Okay.
But inferred that they are supposed to.
The statement in the comment again is, you know, what and how we regulate this is that we mail you an affidavit each year that you have to sign and return to the lender that says, I still live here. This is still my principal residence. And you mail that back. There aren't inspections that are done. There aren't people that are coming knocking on your door to make sure that you live there. But the idea being that if you permanently move out of the home, the reverse mortgage does need to be paid back. You can either sell the home to pay it back, refinance the mortgage, or use other assets to pay back the mortgage at that point in time. But once you permanently leave the home, sell it, pass away, move into a care facility, then you have technically up to a year. It's 6 months plus 2 90-day extensions, a year to pay back the reverse mortgage balance. Okay. Again, it does not require repayment until the last borrower permanently leaves the home or is sold. Yes, sir.
The last bullet on the slide was it generally will affect where some of the things may affect.
Good question. So this gets a little bit into a tax question, and the comment was, again, as per the last bullet, it generally won't affect Social Security, right? Again, the proceeds from a reverse mortgage are not considered income. The proceeds are not considered income, which is why they're not taxed as income, which is why it generally won't affect your Social Security benefits. You see, Social Security income is based on other income that you're generating. If you're receiving proceeds or receiving income or payments from a reverse mortgage, that does not have an impact on your Social Security benefits. Hopefully that helps to address your question. Thank you for that. Again, you can never owe more, I'll get to you in 1 sec. And you are able to utilize a reverse mortgage. I think you mentioned, again, before we started here, that she utilized this as a purchase strategy, went out and actually purchased a home utilizing a reverse mortgage. So yes, you can do that. Say that again. And then she said refinanced the reverse mortgage and used some equity to go buy a motorhome. Yes, ma'am, you had a question.
Well, talking about the last living borrower, I'm older than my husband, so I'll be 62 before he is. Does that mean, like, what if I die and he's still not 62 yet? What happens?
Good question. So the question has to do with what we call a non-borrowing spouse situation if the younger spouse is not 62. And this is one of the rule changes that occurred in 2014. Prior to 2014, you would have been in a dangerous situation upon passing because the rules were different back then. But now the rules are such that a younger spouse, you can actually do a reverse mortgage as long as one spouse is 62 or older. The other spouse, yes, congratulations. The other spouse does not have to be 62. And if something were to happen and the older spouse passed away, the younger spouse under today's rules is protected with a deferment until you decide to sell the house or you pass away. There is no repayment required. So you're protected now under the new rules and regulations.
I thought they had to refinance.
They do not have to refinance under today's new rules and regulations. They, as long as they're occupying the home and are married to the borrower at the time that the borrower takes the reverse mortgage, they are protected as a non-borrowing spouse today without having to refinance. Yes, sir.
The reverse mortgage then is for people that are still paying for their home, not for somebody that owns their home.
So the question was, are reverse mortgages only for people who are still making payments versus somebody who owns their home outright? And the answer to that question is it can be either or. You can own your home free and clear, or you can still have a traditional mortgage. Okay. Got a few more slides and we're running out of time here. I apologize. I will be, just in case I forget to mention it, at the booth. Okay. I've got Nick, my colleague, in the back, and Tamara, my other colleague, at the booth as well. And we will be there afterwards for more questions, because I have a feeling we are going to run out of time here. I apologize in advance, but a few more slides I just want to get at real fast. And this is an important distinction. We kind of talked about this already, but these are my 3 buckets of retirement. And hopefully you guys over here can see this. We all have these 3 buckets as long as you own a home. Bucket number 1 is your income bucket. Bucket number 2 is your nest egg or your assets. And bucket number 3, sorry if I turned it too much, is home equity. And in retirement, let's take the second half of that slide away for a second. But in your earning years, you see you're earning an income and you're taking money from bucket number 1 and you're putting it into bucket number 2. And you're saving, right? Hopefully 5 to 20% of your income is going into bucket number 2. That's your IRA, your 401k, your CDs, your stocks, your cash account, whatever that is. But you're also putting money into bucket number 3. That's your home equity bucket, right? As you make mortgage payments, right, you're putting money and cash into bucket number 3 as well. And as we fast forward to retirement, see, the traditional mindset is, well, I put all that money into bucket number 2 while I was working, and I'm going to spend money out of bucket number 2. As my income is reduced in retirement, I put money into bucket number 2 so that I can spend it in retirement, right? Does that make sense? And I'm not going to touch bucket number 3, because bucket number 3 is, again, for my kids, my grandkids, whoever, my heirs. And all I'm trying to say is we need to shift that thinking a little bit, because it's inefficient. Believe it or not, what happens when you run out of money in bucket number 2? Do you think your financial advisor is going to call you and say, I'm really sorry to tell you this, but you've run out of money, but don't worry, I'll still take care of you. I'll still keep sending you a check every month because you're just a good person and I'm a good person, and we're gonna make this work. No, you're no longer a client. You are no longer a client at that point, right? Once you run out of money. The idea being that if you utilize a retirement mortgage or reverse mortgage strategically, and you put a spigot over on bucket number 3 to draw money tax-free, you can again preserve and protect bucket number 2, believe it or not, so it grows more and lasts longer. So with that, I want to thank you guys for your interest and your time. Again, I will be at the booth here to answer any further questions. But it looks like we might have 1 minute for any last minute question. I appreciate you guys asking questions throughout, but yes, ma'am.
I thought the whole reason for doing this was to give you some money every month, that getting a reverse mortgage, not that you weren't paying on the mortgage, it was that you were receiving money from that mortgage every month. Is that not?
Yeah, good. The question and the comment was, I thought that the goal or the strategy of the reverse mortgage is to receive money every single month, right? And that is one of many different ways that you can utilize a reverse mortgage. So we didn't get into the weeds today, but please come by the booth, schedule an appointment with me, and we'll take a look at your situation. To answer your question, a reverse mortgage can be utilized to either draw an income monthly and receive payments. Yes, absolutely, you can do that. Or to pay off a mortgage and eliminate that expense, or put a line of credit in place that you can draw from for anything you want in the future, tax-free, or a combination.
But you don't lose your house.
That's absolutely correct. You do not lose your house. Thank you all again. I appreciate it.
Thank you.